The winter sun had barely risen when the world beyond the quiet suburban street softened into shades of pale gold. Frost glazed the railings, rooftops, and brittle grass, like nature itself was holding its breath. It was the kind of morning that felt too calm, too gentle, the kind of stillness that often comes right before a storm, not the kind that shakes houses, but the kind that shakes lives. Rowan Hale, one of the youngest CEOs in the city, tightened the scarf around his neck as he approached the small rental home. He was there for nothing more than a routine check-in for a charity project his company supported, a quick visit, a few signatures, maybe a polite conversation. Nothing complicated. Nothing memorable, but fate rarely asks permission before rewriting a man's life. Just as Rowan stepped onto the snow-dusted porch, he saw her, a tiny girl bundled in an oversized coat, blonde curls sprinkled with snowflakes, a faded backpack sliding down her shoulder. She looked impossibly small against the winter's breath. Please like, subscribe, comment. Where from watching video. Rowan froze, staring at the little girl as her breath puffed white into the morning air. Something inside him cracked, something he didn't realize had grown so fragile. Without thinking, he knelt to her level, his voice softening instinctively. "Where is she?" he asked, the girl's fingers curled tightly around the strap of her backpack. "Inside. She won't wake up. I tried shaking her." Her voice broke. Rowan didn't hesitate. "Take me to her." The girl, whose name he didn't know yet, but would soon become one of the most important names in his life, turned and hurried inside the house. Rowan followed, leaving behind the cold morning and stepping into a different kind of chill. The living room was small but tidy, neatness born from necessity, not comfort. A humming space heater fought the winter air. A patched couch sat against the wall. Shoes, carefully aligned by size, told silent stories of stretched budgets and quiet resilience. The girl rushed down the hallway. "My name is Arya," she whispered, as if afraid that speaking too loudly would make things worse. "I'm Rowan," he said gently. "Lead the way." The house smelled faintly of cold air, laundry soap, and something else: fear. The fear of someone who lives every day knowing there's no room for mistakes. The bedroom door creaked open, soft morning light spilled through thin curtains, illuminating the young woman lying motionless on the mattress. A half-finished stack of financial documents lay beside her, scattered where exhaustion had stolen her consciousness. Rowan's heart lurched that he knew her, quiet, hard-working, always polite, always delivering perfect work. She was a freelance accountant his company hired during seasonal rushes, but seeing her like this, pale, still, fragile, was something he was not prepared for. Arya tugged his coat, her tiny fingers shaking. "Can you help her? Please?" Rowan dropped to his knees beside Mara and pressed 2 fingers to her neck. A pulse. "Weak, but steady. She's alive," he murmured, more to reassure Arya than himself. He called emergency services, his hands trembling in a way he hadn't felt since he started running a multi-million-dollar company. Minutes felt like hours. When the ambulance finally arrived, Arya clung to Rowan with surprising strength, refusing to let go even as paramedics lifted her mother onto a stretcher. "Can I come?" she whispered. Rowan didn't hesitate. "Yes." He wrapped her in his coat and carried her to the car. The drive to the hospital was quiet except for Arya's soft voice as she explained her world in fragments. "Mom works at night, so I can go to school. Sometimes she doesn't eat, because she says she's not hungry. She always says she's fine. But she wasn't fine today." Each word felt like a stone dropping into Rowan's chest. That he had approved her last request email, asking for more work, but barely skimmed it. He had been busy, distracted, distant. Now guilt gnawed at him. At the hospital, doctors confirmed their fears: collapse from exhaustion and untreated anemia. "She's been overworking her body for months," the doctor said. She's starving herself to keep going. Rowan stared at Mara through the glass window of her recovery room. She looked peaceful but painfully fragile that he whispered to himself, "How did I not see any of this?" Arya slipped her hand into his. "Is she gonna die?" "No," he said firmly, though his throat tightened. "Not on my watch." Rowan visited every single day that he brought warm meals, toys, coloring books, storybooks. He sat with Arya while she drew little butterflies and flowers on scraps of paper. He brought Mara better blankets. He even arranged for a private nurse, off the record, paid anonymously. Every time he entered the room, Mara tried to apologize. "I'm sorry you got dragged into this." "You didn't drag me," Rowan interrupted gently. "You needed help. That's all." She was strong. Too strong. The type of person who carried burdens alone because she believed she had no right to ask for support, but Rowan saw her clearly now, and he admired her fiercely. One afternoon, when Mara was stable enough to speak comfortably, Rowan made a decision, one that felt less like a choice and more like something that had been waiting inside him all along. "Mara," he said softly, "I'd like to offer you a full-time position. Better pay, full benefits, flexible schedule. You'll never have to work yourself sick again." Her eyes filled instantly, tears of relief, gratitude, disbelief. Arya threw her arms around Rowan's neck. For the first time in years, Mara allowed herself to breathe. Warm sunlight replaced winter frost. Laughter replaced fear. And Rowan, who once lived only for boardrooms and deadlines, found himself spending more and more time at the tiny rental home that he fixed their heater, repaired their fridge, brought groceries, helped Arya with homework, stayed for dinner more often than he planned, worked late at their kitchen table while Arya colored beside him and Mara brewed tea. Something inside him healed there, something he didn't know had been broken, that he had walked in as a stranger, but now, he wasn't sure when it had happened, he belonged there. One afternoon, Arya chased butterflies in the yard, laughing freely, so different from the frightened girl on the snowy porch months ago. Mara sat beside Rowan on the porch steps, sunlight warming their shoulders. Her voice was soft. "You saved us, Rowan." He shook his head. "I think you saved me." Because somewhere between snowflakes and sunlight, between whispered fears and warm afternoons,